His research shows what takes a company from good to great and what these 11 companies had in common.
You don't need your constraints to one day become your strengths. You just need your constraints to not hold your strengths back.
We really play positive sum games to an extent that whatever U&I does today is completely open source. For us, this is an infinite game.
Two founders walk into with Satish, Manchikanti and Ajit Sivaram. Execution is not a hustle. When you grow people, you grow everything. Two founders walk into.
Today, we want to share with you 5 books that dramatically changed our leadership journey. And we highly recommend that every CEO out there reads these. Number 1.
Good to Great by Jim Collins. We came across this book as part of a journey where we knew we were doing good work. We were content, we were motivated by what we were doing, we could see the impact, we could see the community grow, the work grow. And then we started thinking about the next season and said, what is next for us? And that's when we landed on this book, Good to Great. It's a beautiful book because this book is based on a research that Jim Collins did, where he researched about 1,400 companies to see, hey, these are good companies, but among them, which are the great ones? And he was able to identify about 11 companies which made that journey from good to great. His research shows what takes a company from good to great and what these 11 companies had in common. And that really became a blueprint for our journey from then on. Number 1, these 11 companies had a very clear understanding of what was their hedgehog concept, which basically is what's their USP, what is their mode, what is it that they're really good at, and what was creating traction for them. And we were able to clarify that for ourselves, what we are good at. Number 2 is, he talks about how these companies were able to create that flywheel effect, which you're able to consistently put effort over time and you're able to build momentum. And the third thing, which is probably one of my favorite ones, these companies were brutal about who gets on the bus. That has been a journey for us. There's a lot of learning saying, hey, who should be on the bus and how to ensure. And we spend a lot of time ensuring that people are in the bus, but they're also in the right seat.
Such a good analogy. People in the right seat.
And the fourth thing that we learned from the book is he says all great companies have great leadership. He calls it level 5. And the special thing about level 5 leaders are they are mission driven. They're not ego driven. And this really became sort of a blueprint. We still keep going back to those 5 and it continues to refine our journey.
I love that. That book, I will never forget the red color cover, stood with me for a long time and it really helped us in that initial season. The second book that really helped me personally was a book written by a dear friend and supporter of ours was Flippin. He wrote a book called The Flipside. It was very interesting because it was the first time we ever did the Flippin profile, which essentially was a behavioral profile, and it brought up so many different things. It showed me that my ambition was 4 out of 10. It showed me actually what my constraints were, which is very different to a lot of profiles to show you what you're strong at. This actually showed you what your constraints were. The interesting thing about the book is it helps you frame your constraints as catalysts rather than something that you are, oh my gosh, how are you going to deal with this now? And I love that. It will help you discover your constraints, help you understand what are some killer constraints and how to manage them so that they don't hinder your strengths. That was game-changing for me. The Chinese table tennis team had this weird penhold grip they would hold their racket with. And it was very weird because every shot you could only play with your forehand. There was close to no backhand. And what they did was their forehands were so strong, they never needed a backhand. And essentially their strengths managed their weaknesses. Their backhand would never become their strength. And this book helps shape that, hey, you don't need your constraints to one day become your strengths. You just need your constraints to not hold your strengths back. So I may never be as good a project manager as you, but I should be able to manage projects so that people in my team don't feel lost at sea. To me, that message changed my life and it helped me almost have hope that my lack of discipline, my lack of memory, my lack of following orders wouldn't constrain you and I.
Yeah, I love that. I remember we doing Flippin profile first time together, maybe 13, 14 years ago.
Yeah.
And we've done that every few years. And that has really helped us sharpen our skills and how we view ourselves. And it's such a blessing.
Yeah.
Third one for me, it came at a point, you and I always had a very strong leadership culture. 2014-15, we were already running 2 conferences, leadership conferences a year. When you think about leadership, you and I was already churning out 500, 600 young leaders every year. And we would think about leadership very deeply, but what we needed is, as we interacted with these young leaders who just, the first step in the leadership journey, we needed a very simple framework to be able to convey in a very simple language, but a shared language with a reference point to talk about leadership. And we did a lot of scanning through hundreds of models, and the one we landed on was 5 Levels of Leadership by John Maxwell. Right, and that really helped us convey the message, simple to understand but very holistic. And the leadership journey that he rolls out in the book, 5 Levels, it's really profound and easy to understand. It really answers the question saying, what kind of leader do I want to be? And to speak that language with most young leaders, to be able to take the journey from being a positional leader to a relational leader is just game changer. Helping them understand that leadership is not about the title, leadership is about trust. And it continues to help us place a compass, even as we talk to the young leaders today, to introduce them and help them figure out and build an identity around what kind of leaders they want to be.
And I like this book also because it almost was the baby steps of leadership. It didn't take you from level 1 to level 5. It gave you hope as I'm a level 1 leader, let me try going to level 2. And there was this journey every leader was able to take without feeling overwhelmed on.
Yeah.
Leadership definitely was a big part of our lives. And we also knew that as we lead this organization, we knew what kind of culture we want to build. And in our very early years, I think we had a very simplistic view of what good culture was. It was, hey, everybody be nice to each other, hold certain, I will be respectful, all the usual words that come with culture. As long as there was peaceful coexistence, we thought we had good culture. The book that really helped shape my thinking with culture was an everyone culture. And it tweaked my thinking in the way that essentially it said, hey, your culture needs to be built by everyone, not just the few at the top, number one. But it introduced this concept to me of, it's a bit of a mouthful, a deliberately developmental organization. And essentially it was an organization that was intentionally defining its culture, but everyone was doing it. And that to us, one, was a lot more work.
Yeah.
Because it was no more just us saying, hey, this is who we want to be, but everyone saying who we want to be. And we had to figure out how do we move beyond just usual formal training. Let's train our managers, let's train our first-time managers, all of that. We had to try and weave culture into daily operations. And that's when we built out our culture canvas, all of that. Because it then brought the culture of the organization into the everyday. What rituals do we build? What rhythms do we build? Yeah. And that changed the game for us.
I love that. I think talking about culture, one book that had a deep impact on me, and it came in a season where you and I was growing very fast. More campaigns, more teams, the community was exploding, more wins. But something felt off just in terms of culture. And that's when we came across Simon Sinek's book, The Infinite Game.
Nice.
And it almost felt like finding the missing piece. Just to give you the background, his book is based on another book by a philosopher called James Carsey. And in that book, James Carsey talks about 2 kinds of games, infinite and finite games. Finite games are like football or chess, where you have clear rules and there are winners and losers. Infinite games, on the other hand, it's leadership, relationships are building a movement where the goal isn't to win, but the goal is to keep playing and getting better. And that idea really hit home for us. We realized that we were playing an infinite game, but sometimes we were using the finite language and finite rules.
Very true.
And able to differentiate that kind of just eye-opening. We were measuring ourselves by short-term wins instead of long-term purpose. And making that switch in the lens really helped us. Since then, we have changed our mindset towards some certain things and our language completely. One of our value vectors is we say great, not best.
Yeah.
We try to eliminate best, top from our language.
Yeah.
And we talk about greatness. Because best is about comparison, whereas great is about contribution.
And everyone can be great.
Absolutely. And we started talking the language of, hey, we do not want to play zero-sum games. We want to play positive-sum games. And we really play positive-sum games to an extent that whatever U&I does today is completely open source. There is nothing off the table that somebody, anybody, any our organization can come to us and we'll say, hey, no, that is confidential. We are super open about everything we have built. People can take it and use it because for us, this is an infinite game. And one last thing is about how we view people, who we see in the bus, as we talked about earlier. We strongly believe that, hey, we want to play a long-term game with long-term people.
And that makes so much sense. If you have the right people in the right seat, heading in the right direction, that definitely is a recipe for long-term games with long-term people. So there you have it, 5 books that have hugely impacted our lives that we think you should read. Let us know what you think in the comments. Like and subscribe.